Welcome to Shadow of Truth, and today is Wednesday, July the 26th, 2017, and your hosts are Dave Kranzler from InvestmentResearchDynamics.com and Rory Hall from thedailycoin.org. Dave, what's going on?
Well, not a lot's going on. It's actually, we're kind of in the dead of summer here, so it's been a little bit quiet on the news front, other than just the general economic and political meltdown going on in this country. And that's what's going on in D.C. is keeping me thoroughly amused.
Yes, yeah. It's a new comedy show every single day. We're going to be here all week, folks. So, well, let's jump in and make something happen.
Sounds good. Yeah, so, you know, it's a lose-lose situation if you come out and write a blog post or speak negatively about Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, because, I mean, to me, the ardent, the fervent advocates of cryptocurrencies are, you know, they put the same emotion into it as the internet stock proponents back in the dot-com bubble era, and there was just no arguing with them. Back then it was a new economy, you know, and things are different now, and this time around it's a new currency. It's a computerized world now. It's a digitized world, and this is the best non-fiat currency. Well, in certain ways, cryptocurrencies are de facto fiat currencies because they can be created in unlimited amounts.
Correct.
And if it was just Bitcoin that was out there, sure, maybe you could create a system that would be backed by the Bitcoin system that would work. But once you start, I mean, there's something like over 800 cryptocurrencies out there now.
Right.
And that in effect is devaluative of each individual cryptocurrency.
Right.
And so, and I even had a subscriber to, I think it was my mining stock journal. I had written a little blurb in one of the issues just saying, you know, I'm not a proponent of Bitcoin. Do what you want with that. And he took to mean he's such he had the blinders on to the extent that he took that to mean that I was trying to discourage people from buying cryptocurrencies. And I'm living, let live. I don't care what someone wants to do with their time and money.
Right.
I wasn't trying to, if someone wants to get involved in the cryptocurrencies, that's fine. But he actually canceled his subscription.
That's pretty
because
sad.
He thought I was, trying to scare people away from Bitcoin, which I wasn't. And it'll be to his detriment, because since he canceled, I've already had a couple ideas that have made the subscribers a lot of money. So in digital U.S. fiat currency, not in Bitcoin. I'm sure some of them might have taken the profits and bought cryptocurrencies.
Well, with the cryptocurrencies, I mean, my argument to the whole thing is that I have been thinking about history and centralized issuance of currencies. I can't think of any time in history when there's been a centralized issuance of currency, like from the Federal Reserve or any of the central banks, where they've allowed competition. I mean, even if you go back to Christ at the temple, I mean, the reason that he destroyed the merchants out in front of the temple was because they were having to swap coins in order to make their tithe to the church, because the church would only accept this type of coin. I mean, and all of a sudden I'm supposed to believe that these guys that derive all of their power, all of their control from this system are just going to go, well, that's cool. You guys, y'all can do that. That's great. I mean, and I agree with you, Dave, wholeheartedly. If you want to invest in that, that's great. It's beautiful. It's your money. Do whatever you want to do with it. I don't care. But let's just look at history and see what history says about currency, because that's what the argument is that this is a new currency, and I just don't see it happening. Maybe
Well,
wrong.
let's redefine it as sort of man-created currency or man-created money, as opposed to gold and silver, which
Comes out of the ground.
Exactly.
Labor and sweat and equity are built in order to get it out of the ground. It's already built in. There's value built into it. So,
right. And I'll just this one last thing on this, and we can wrap it up and talk about your subject, which sounds very interesting. First of all, Goldman came out and was pounding the table with a buy recommendation on Bitcoin. And we know the history of Goldman Sachs' strong buy recommendations. You usually want to do the opposite of what they're recommending.
Yep.
It's almost a perfect contrarian indicator. And the second thing is that last week Casey Research was running some sort of promotion where he was giving away $250,000 worth of Bitcoins. How come he never runs promotions like that where he's giving away $250,000 worth of gold and silver coins?
It's a good question.
So to me, the fact that he's willing to give away Bitcoins tells you all you need to know about the value of a Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of gold and silver, I just wrote a couple of days ago about the Russians' official gold holdings. And when I was writing this article, I also mentioned China and the fact that China has not added 1 ounce of official gold to their gold holdings since October of 2016. And what's interesting about that is that Russia and China agreed last September of 2016, that Russia would actually sell China up but somewhere between 15 and 100 tons of gold annually. So, and when they made the announcement in September, they had already had their first transaction, but they didn't give any number as far as how much gold was actually transferred or sold by Russia to China. And that they said when this announcement was made, that it would be the next 12 months, and this was in September, they would transfer or they would sell 15 to 20 tons. And thereafter, anywhere they would supply between 80 and 100 tons of gold to China per year. That was in September. In October, China goes silent as far as their official gold holdings, as far as them adding more gold to their central bank, to the PBOC. So that was like, okay, something's going on here. And once again, they're not, Russia nor China are stockpiling all this gold to make more jewelry or trinkets or coins. They're not doing that. You don't need 100 tons a year to do that. So where's the gold going is the first question, and why is it not being reported, in their official gold holdings? So this confirms the fact that China, as you and I have been talking about since we've been doing the show, that they have, tons and tons and tons going into other accounts that are not on the official ledger, that they don't have to report. And that's exactly what's happening here. So this gold is probably going into one of their SAFE accounts, safe accounts, that they don't have to report to the IMF or the World Gold Council or any other organization. They don't have to report it, period. So how much is Russia transferring to China? And keeping in mind that if they're transferring 100 tons of gold from Russia to China, Russia only mines, according to the World Gold Council, about 250 tons a year. And they've been over the past several years, they've been taking about 4/5 of that, or about 200 tons, into the Russian central bank. So, and they're on pace to do that again this year. They're already, as far as their numbers. So there's a lot of gold that's in in limbo here, and it's in between Russia and China somewhere. We don't know where it is, and we don't know how much it is. It's very covert.
Yeah, I hear you there, and that's great sleuthing. I mean, when it comes to governments reporting their numbers, there's official numbers, and then there's real numbers, and I've never trusted any of the numbers that any government's reported, and these governments are not independently audited, so it's not like independent auditors from a international commission can come and go through the Federal Reserve and audit everything.
Right.
I'd like to see it. Forget their books in terms of what they're doing with swaps, et cetera, derivatives. How about just an independent audit of the vault?
There you go.
And the records connected with every bar of gold that's supposed to be in that vault. So the Fed doesn't the Fed's not honestly reporting the amount of gold being held in its vaults. Why do we expect that China or Russia would do the same thing? And you happen to mention, the gold might be going into some alternative accounts controlled by the Russian central bank or the Russian government, because it's basically one and the same. But on the other hand, there's been no one who's audited the PBOC's vault, so I think they just report whatever they feel like they need to report as their gold holdings. Everyone knows it's far larger than what they're reporting.
Yes.
And I've kind of come to the conclusion a couple of years ago that it's the same thing is true with Russia. If they think the United States and the EU or the ECB and the Bank of China, that if these entities aren't honestly reporting the amount of gold in their vaults, why should they?
Right.
I think they report an increasing amount of gold to send the message that, hey, we're accumulating gold. And China doesn't even need to send that message because there's so much written about it and so much evidence of it that we know they're accumulating a lot of gold.
Yes, and this proves it.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that Russia has agreed, and I do remember reading that article where Russia agreed to export, I think it was 80 or 100 tons of gold a year to China?
Between 80 and 100, yes.
Yeah, and so if they're producing, I know their official production numbers are somewhere between 200 million and 300 million ounces a year. I have a feeling that's a lowball number, again, because I know just from the work that I do on junior mining companies that there's been several large gold, copper porphyries discovered over in Russia recently, say in the last 10 or 15 years. And those are now getting to the point where they're being mined. And so I would hazard an educated guess that the actual amount of gold that's produced inside of Russia that belongs to the Russian government is produced in general by the Russian economic system or mining industry is larger than what is reported as their official gold production numbers.
Yes, I agree with that, Dave. And what I put in this article also, which I found over at USA Gold, I think it was USA Gold. It was, yeah, they had reported, according to the World Gold Council, the official, what each nation is supposed to be mining each year, but they also included their, quote, in-ground reserves. And Russia's coming in at a whopping 8,000 tons of gold, presumably still in the ground, while they're only mining, supposedly, 250 tons per year. That 8,000 tons represents the second largest hoard of in-ground gold on the planet, second only to Australia, who has 9,500 tons. So we're not talking about a few ounces or a few tons here, a few tons there. I mean, 8,000 tons. That's as much as the Federal Reserve is supposedly still holding hostage in Fort Knox and in New York. So, I mean, that's a lot of gold. I mean, China supposedly only has 2,000 tons in the ground.
Who knows what the real number is?
Exactly.
All we know is that, from the numbers that we do have access to, they're accumulating a lot of gold.
A lot. And once again, this proves it beyond question. There is no doubt that that China is covertly amassing massive amounts of gold. We know at least 100 tons from Russia. So that's what they agreed to. But what else you got, Dave?
Well, that's about it.
Well,
just I probably won't be in front of my screens when the FOMC announcement comes out, because that's about how much I care about it. But I'll do some errands then and come back, and at some point I'll see what type of propaganda the Fed decided to release, just after noon Denver time.
Have you a big nothing burger for an afternoon snack?
Exactly.
Oh, well, that's about what I've got going on. Just kind of watching the markets, or so-called markets, and seeing what's going on. But
that sounds good.
All right, buddy. Well, have a good afternoon, and I guess we'll pick it up sometime soon.
Yeah, well, we'll pick it up next week if we got some interesting things to report.
Now, next week I won't be able to, because I'll be, at this time next week, I will be with Jeff Brown, our buddy out of China. He's here in the States, and I'll be spending a few hours with him.
Oh, nice.
Yep. It's pretty cool.
All right. Well, then I guess we won't pick it up next week.
Hopefully the week after. So
that sounds good. Have fun with Jeff.
Thank you. I'll see you later.
Catch you later.